This episode of Jump Off Point is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to learn how to support the Boss Rush family of podcasts, head to bossrush.net or our Patreon at patreon.com/bossrushmedia. Thanks for helping us build something better.
Hello everybody, welcome to Jump Off Point here on Boss Rush Games. I'm your host and light excited Eddie V. Joining me, the one, the only, the Wrestle Knight himself, Mr. Josh Martinez. Hello, good sir.
What is up, Ed? It's been a week. I was gonna say it's been a while, but then I realized it's only been a week.
Oh yes, we have just came from Summer Game Fest with all the shows, and there's still more reveals that are coming, still more showcases and everything. And we're gonna talk about that a little bit later. But everybody, if you not seen this man on our latest Nintendo Expansion Pass whenever it went live, if you guys see it, you missed out on a good episode. Trust me, that's an episode that you guys would need to see, Nintendo Expansion Pass, because my guest here, he's an alumni of the Crossroads podcast. He also hosts Scramble Rambles. The one,
Yes.
the only, the doctor himself, Mr. Austin Campbell. Hello, good sir.
Man, again, the buildup is way too strong for what I have to say. I'm always gonna bring it back down to earth if you keep building me up like this.
I mean,
And
right?
it's
That's unreal.
It's been a while. I would say it's been a while, but we had a conversation. If you like the Nintendo Power Block episodes that talk very little about Nintendo and then go off of tangents and talk about stuff and watching me and Ed get heated with each other, that'll be the episode for you. And let me tell
Josh.
you, I don't know how long the episode went, but we went even longer after we stopped recording.
we went 4 hours, so we finished recording and it hit almost 5 o'clock, and we were just like, we've been recording since 1 something. It was such a deep and good discussion. Trust me, everybody. When you see that Nintendo Pass Expansion Pass, if you want to get it early, hop on our Patreon, go to bossrush.net, sign up just for $1. You'll get these episodes early. This, like I said, this is a discussion you do not want to miss. Josh, we went 3 hours over, and when I finished talking to Austin, I said to myself, dang it, I should have recorded this, because it was such a deep discussion. When me and Austin get into some good discussions, and I love Austin because I could talk to him, we'll discuss our points and everything, and we, regardless of we agree or disagree, of course we still got love for each other. When you listen to it, you hear our passion, you'll laugh at times, and then you'll come to understanding why we had that discussion, where we're coming from. And it's so good. You'll literally be in tune and everything. And we just definitely had a awesome discussion. So yeah, that's all I can say.
Sounds like a first take episode sometimes.
Yeah.
Sounds like a first take
Yeah.
episode. Sometimes I won't lie.
You've even got.
Just don't make me skip
Ed being-
Bayless. Don't make me skip Bayless.
Well, who's Ed gonna be? He's Eddie V. Stephen A. They're the same. Same names.
He can be Eddie V. I will be anyone but Skip. Just don't make me skip it. I don't want to be Skip Bayless.
You can be Chris Mad Dog Russo.
Hey, that works.
Oh, wow.
That works. I'll take it.
Well, everybody, we're gonna get into what's jumping, but since Austin is our guest,
Yes.
last episode we all brought an album to make as our summer jam, and we wanted to highlight 3 tracks from that album. So I presented this to Austin, and I'm excited to hear what one album would you make your summer jam, and what 3 tracks would you love to highlight?
Now, this is a very tough question for me, Ed. You know how much I listen to music, and I'm constantly looking for new stuff. I had to go back into the archives and really look for this because at first I thought I was making a collections of songs, and then now I had to pick one album, and then it made it really tough. But I've settled on a band that I really like, who also is coming out with another album this Friday, as of the time we're recording this. So I'm very excited. Queens of the Stone Age, their 2013 album
Ooh.
Like Clockwork. That was the album that came out right before my senior year, and it was a summer album. It came out in June. Uh, Honestly, some people say it's their best work. It's not my favorite album of theirs, but it means a lot to me coming around at that same time, going into my senior year, having a good summer, a bad summer. You know the high school drama that goes around sometimes. But at the end of the day, I always had this album to listen to. So, and I went ahead and just the 3 songs that I did all kind of have like different themes that go with the summer. So one is I Sat by the Ocean, which is a classic. You can listen to it right on the beach. You're gonna love it. Smooth Sailing, another on the water, on the beach kind of song. And then maybe my favorite from the album, Fairweather Friends, which has Elton John on it, and Elton John just kicks the track into another level. So Queens of the Stone Age, Like Clockwork, that is my summer album for you. But if you ask me again
Awesome.
tomorrow, it'll be something different. I'm sure I'll come up with something different.
would it be like Ludacris or something like that?
I almost
awesome.
well, I almost said I almost said Rick Ross's Mastermind, because that was also that came after my senior year. 311's Transistor. I can go on.
That's a
I
good
could go
one.
on, but you should probably stop me.
Say,
Josh,
give us one more
311 fan?
album.
No, I was just saying 311 Transistor, that's a good one. That's a really good one.
It's so good. It's like to me, like, I like 311 a lot, but that album is like by far that's like the one that just like it's like their version of making a space rock album. It's great. So another one, go Fiction Family Reunion. Not the first one, but the second one, the Reunion. Fiction Family
I've
Reunion.
never heard of this
That'd be my
band.
fourth one. I know you. I know you. My favorite band in the whole world is Switchfoot. The lead singer made another album with a different name called Fiction Family that has another singer from Nickel Creek, which is a bluegrass type band. Put together, they made Fiction Family. It's a little bit of it's kind of a folky, country folk type, rock type album.
You know what? Me and Jesse had this discussion, and I was just like, how come in the rock arena of genre in music, y'all know all of these bands that us as Black people never heard of because we don't see them on MTV or anything. How do y'all know all of these artists? Some like what is it? Seven Avenged
Avenged Sevenfold.
Oh, Seven.
Yeah, Avenged Sevenfold.
Avenged Sevenfold.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
You know, that's something we heard on because of MTV. Or just possibly going through the rock station that's been on the radio. Sometimes we would hear something like that. You know, whatever we saw on BET back in the day, that's how we learned of artists. Unless we get into like the No Limit era or the Cash Money era or the Suave House era of rap, where it was these places in the South that somehow their music made it up to the Midwest, and we just heard it through word of mouth or anything. Y'all talk about bands that we've never heard of, that we've never seen. We don't know who promotes their album. They be like, "Oh, I'm going to a show featuring country rock alligators." Be like, "Who is country rock alligators?" And I'm not gonna lie, a band named Country Rock Alligators is probably real. They probably got some banging tracks.
I'm gonna look that up.
Ed, I highly suggest the albums that I gave you, because I think Like Clockwork is an album that you can appreciate. I will say though, I think so. If it's MTV, I wasn't around when MTV was the thing. You know, I got into 106 and Park for a little bit. That was still kind of big-ish when I was, but by that time everything had moved to the internet age. The rock bands though, I would think that the 90s was probably the hit stuff. So you had like Nirvana was big, and then Soundgarden and stuff. The bands that I listened to were like popular in the late 90s, early thousands, and that's when you started getting like your pop, your Britney Spears, and and that was probably what was on MTV, and probably the rock album the rock I listened to probably wasn't the big thing at that point. And now I don't even know what's big at this point. I know Taylor Swift's huge. That's all I know. I don't know who else. I don't know who else is big.
Yeah.
So Ed,
go ahead, Josh.
There is a band called Crocodile Country Rock. So you were almost there.
I was just looking up a name.
No, it's there, Ed. Don't you worry. They're based out of Canada, I found out. Anyway, to that point, I'm a little bit older than Austin. I mean, I was born in 91, so yeah, I missed a lot of the MTV, but it was still there in the early 2000s when I was getting into middle school. And I remember when I played high school football, when I'd have to get up early for practices, I'd usually flip on MTV, VH1. There was a channel called Fuse that was very rock heavy at the time. And I just would watch music videos there, and I'd get a good mix. I'd watch rock. I would watch. I remember T.I.'s album was coming out in 2006. That was my sophomore year in high school, so that was pretty big. Yeah. And then T.I. versus T.I.P. came out shortly after that. That was in my high school age. But yeah, that's where I discovered it. And then the 2000s are a weird time in music in terms of rock, because there was a lot of like these mega bands and these side bands from like well-established artists. Because I mean, you look at it, Austin, you mentioned one of them being, those two bands forming that one band that I've already forgotten the name, so I apologize there. But like you look at Audio Slave was a mixture of Rage Against the Machine and the lead singer of Soundgarden. Velvet Revolver was Guns N' Roses with, I believe, the lead singer from Stone Temple Pilots. A Perfect Circle was another mega band. Just these bands, even Queens of the Stone Age even had Dave Grohl as the drummer on an album. So it's like a lot of these 2000s was a time when a lot of these rock bands just kind of follow the trend of what Temple of the Dog did in the 90s, but they were just all over the place throughout the 2000s for rock. So for me, that opened up a lot of different avenues for rock, because I'm like, oh, I really like Rage Against the Machine. Let me check out Audio Slave. And then all of a sudden, because of how YouTube's starting to come up and starting to suggest stuff for you, or you go to school and you say, hey, I really like Audio Slave, and somebody's like, oh, I've got this song on my iPod too. And that's kind of where I started to branch out my rock knowledge, was just building off of that. And weirdly enough, it all started with Weird Al Yankovic.
Oh yeah, Weird Al. Ever since the 80s, he's been
Weird Al is the goat.
Like he's the goat. Weird Al is universal, and I think that started to happen literally in the early 2000s of music, that everybody's just started listening to almost anything and everything. We adopted JoJo, we adopted Christina Aguilera and everything, but then you got like artists like Joss Stone, who was coming up and she was killing it. Linkin Park was literally for everybody and everything. Linkin Park was just something that I know it's the rock rap kind of thing, but everybody, no matter the race, when you heard their music, you heard their music. You listen to the words. You listen to the beats and everything, and that's why it's just like Linkin Park music is so still to this day very iconic and it mattered to us. But it was just like their music was so universal to anybody who listened to it and everything. Because yeah, you could ask like black people like, "Hey, do you know Linkin Park?" Yeah, I try so hard. It doesn't really matter and everything. And or some people might say Mike Shinoda and everything. And Chad, I forgot what's his last name.
Chester Bennington.
Chester Bennington. I don't know why I said Chad. Chester Bennington. On how impactful he was and everything. Of like, I love Linkin Park's first album, but their second album is classic, top tier classic.
And it's 20 years
agree.
old.
Yeah.
Meteor was the childhood. That was like childhood. That was like the thing when I was a kid. And that's funny that you mentioned that, because I think Linkin Park, that's what made that band so special, is because there were bands like Korn that did songs with Ice Cube and stuff like that, but it never it just didn't pop off like the Jay-Z Linkin Park crossover did. Like that was the thing that brought like rap and rock completely together and like distinguish the different bands. But there were bands that were still doing it, that were doing all these kind of songs together. It just didn't, for some reason that Jay-Z Linkin Park one was the one that really got people connected, and like everyone could come together and agree like this stuff is balling.
And no disrespect to Fred Durst, and everything, because I feel like he's, if I want to go like the founder of the rock rap kind of thing, or people who would remember most of it, I think it's going to be Fred Durst, because him and Method Man doing that song, like who knew that would happen and everything. So like much respect to Fred Durst and his band and everything. Yeah. So
of course, the original that I can think of was the who were they? Aerosmith and
Run DMC.
Yeah, Run DMC. That's the first one that I could think of. Might be older than that,
the
but
Walk This Way mix, man. And then that one's so great because the music video is literally them breaking down a wall, like because you've got Aerosmith performing on one room, Run DMC in the other, and they're like yelling back and forth, like, "Hey man, shut up with that rock music," or whatever. And then like the music video, they break down the wall in the middle, and like I've watched that show, like I think I Heart the 80s or something like that, and they talk about how that was extremely symbolic, not just a cool rock video, and they all acknowledge that's what they were going for. They wanted it to be like, look, yeah, you've got rock, you've got rap, but we can bring it together and we can make something cool, and we're going to break down these walls, and also using it as a racial metaphor for bringing together ending racism and a lot of those type of topics. But that's what that whole music video was so symbolic. And I mean, even if you don't care about that, that's just such a banging track. That's such a good one.
Yeah. Well, for me and Josh and Austin, if you want to take part of this conversation, you can. I wanted to ask you, Josh. Summer Game Fest has just kind of ended, but there's still some more showcases. But the thing came up about E3, or some people say the non-E3 of this summer. I have to ask you, do you think that you feel like E3 was missed or not? Do you think Summer Game Fest was successful or not? Let's take on the first part with E3. Do you feel like it was missed this year?
That's a tough question because I think there was a lot of people out there. I remember hearing both on podcasts and reading on social media that they didn't like the direction it was going. And, I mean, it's been on and off since the pandemic. That's just how things have gone. It hasn't very been much consistent. But honestly, I think it's something that could be missed because I look at it as gaming's Comic Con almost. A gathering of like-minded people. Basically a 4-day Comic Con's a big 4-day celebration of a lot of different entertainment, comic books, a lot of anime, all kinds of different things. E3 could have been that, and at one time, even though it was a little bit different, it was more of a way to show off to your investors. But I see it as, for me, I would get excited about it because I would say like, okay, this is gaming's Comic Con. I'd look forward to what would reveal. I remember Miyamoto holding up the GameCube for the first time. There's just some iconic moments from that are just very much that I think it's one of those things that if it continues to be gone, it's going to be missed over time. It's going to be one of those. It's going to be like Wind Waker, where at the time we don't appreciate it, but once time goes on, we're gonna be like, man, remember that thing that we used to all gather around for? And I think there's some things that could fill that void, but for me, E3 just kind of, it felt like an original thing, like kind of the first one to lay that groundwork, despite it being something that was more geared toward the investors than the fans.
Okay. I know for me, I think E3 was missed. I really miss E3 because E3 felt E3 felt more organized with its presentations, with the timing. People knew where shows was going to be happening, so you could see it. Everything was consecutive in 3 days and everything, and we knew that on Tuesday it was going to be Nintendo's turn. I'm talking moderate E3. I'm not talking about way past E3. I'm talking about minor E3 where we are able to watch these shows. The showcases and presentations. And I felt like with E3 not being here, it was kind of hard to engage with fans, and it was kind of hard to engage with the community on what people thought about a lot of these shows, and everything. Whether the game was big or small or anything, because I feel like a lot of people miss, I would say, 65% of these shows and everything. Like, I don't see no one talking about the stuff from the Tribeca Game Festival. I'm not seeing no one who really tuned into the Wholesome Direct and talking about that. Even Ubisoft, they had something, but not really much engagement. Capcom did something, still no engagement. It kind of felt like the Summer Game Fest itself, what people thought about that and the reactions to it, and then the big boy Xbox coming out with the way that they came out and the reactions to that, and pretty much after that, people were kind of done in a sense. And it's kind of weird that at least with E3, it felt like there's always consistently been engagement. Because of the shows, people were tuning in and talking about the games and planning out and everything. And I just feel like this year it was missed. Not for the conference con itself that people would actually go to and walk the floor, but I just feel like the E3 presentations were really missed this year. Austin, do you have any thoughts?
I think I think I agree with Josh though. I think we're gonna miss it the more that it gets away from us. I think that's like a common thing though for just people in general getting together and enjoying things together. I know like for me, I would always like try to take off work during E3 so I can stay and watch all the shows and be a part of the conversation. And even if there's like usually like the PC part of it, I always thought was kind of weird and not in the Devolver type way where I like it, but just weird that I don't like it kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
That even those shows I would watch because I already took off. I'm already watching it. I'm already in the conversation. Everyone's in the online chat discussing it, and everyone was kind of unified just by E3. I mean, the thing with E3 is like, I think E3 did a good thing as far as like getting us all together. I think where E3 failed was they just didn't manage it properly, or they weren't, whatever the cost wasn't worth it for these like developers and showcases and stuff like that. They just eventually dropped out. And could Summer Games Fest do that? Possibly. It would take a lot of things for like, see, E3 was like a big thing to get like PlayStation and Xbox and Nintendo, and they all come to their show. Now PlayStation and Xbox and Nintendo are all bigger than that, and they don't really need someone to govern it. And then if you're trying to get those three in a room and try to get them to pick a weekend for them all to work out, it's not going to happen. You know, they're big enough, they can do their own thing. And so I think, unfortunately, this is like one of those things where the the capitalism sucks thing. Like, it's just like, so the money got too much involved, and it took away from an event that a lot of gamers took time in and took off, and it was in the conversation. I remember just being in the chat rooms all day, being jealous of all the people that were actually at the show. I will say though that if you really miss it, go support like your PAX East and stuff like that, and go to those shows, because that's the last bit of what you got. It might not show a lot of things, but if you want that camaraderie, seeing all the new games coming up, especially like the small indie games, support those, because that might be the last inkling of E3 that you're going to have. But I think E3 will be missed, but I think it's just the nails in the coffin, unfortunately. And
yeah, and I mean the tough part about it is too, I mean, from a media viewing perspective, people don't consume media the way that they used to. So these presentations, nothing's appointment viewing anymore. I mean, you could go on to any TV show. I mean, live sports is probably your only thing that's still, I've got to sit down at this time to watch it if that's what you're into. But even
that's getting
you don't
less
have.
and less.
Yeah, so it's like media consumption is just changing, and so Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, they know that. They know that. Well, we're going to get more eyeballs on something if we, you know, air it at a certain time, but that it's so much easily accessible. Yeah, I think they could still pull it off of whatever show floor, but they're going to get more eyes on it initially because you're going to want to not miss what it is. And honestly, anything that they put on via the computer or whatever, that's going to, I can watch that at work. I don't have to be away from work or in the showroom or anything like that. So I've seen that media consumption's really played a whole kind of shift into this. I mean, Nintendo doesn't, they haven't done a regular show, like an in-person show, in a while. They've done their E3 Direct. That's been a thing, and I always found that interesting that you had Sony and Microsoft still trying to do in-person shows, where Nintendo was like, "No, we're going to do a pre-produced thing," and it always did really well. And now you see the PlayStation showcase, you see the Xbox showcases. These companies are seeing that that's just the way people watch and get their announcements, rather than going to one of those. But yeah, like Austin said, for your camaraderie, for your gathering aspect, it's your PAXs, it's your isn't there like I think there's some kind of show up in Chicago. I don't know what all the shows. I'm in Utah, so none of them come here. The closest one is
I'm in Oklahoma. They don't come here. That's why I can only name PAX East. I was like, I think it's PAX West. I don't know. They don't come here.
There is a PAX West, and it's in Seattle, so it's not anywhere close to me. There was a PAX South at one point. I was looking it up. It was in San Antonio, so that would have been the closest to you. But yeah, anything that's worth anything either comes to Los Angeles or Las Vegas, and that's the closest to me. And Vegas is still about 5-6 hours from where I live in Utah, so it's not even close.
And Nintendo does do tours. They're doing they do their summer tours where, depending on what city or state that you at, if you're close to it or anything, you could go to that mall or to that area and play some of their announced games or stuff that is available, but you want to try, because like some of their tours has been in Chicago, and so I have taken the train down and went to like Millennium Park in Chicago, and that's where Nintendo was, and I played some of their games and everything before they got released, so I could like kind of talk about them. So that's kind of how Nintendo's been doing with that with their stuff. Let's quickly talk about Summer Game Fest. And how did you guys feel watching the Summer Game Fest? Like, did you guys watch all of the presentations? Um, did you check out just Summer Game Fest itself and really nothing else or anything? Or did you check out some of the stuff later or plan to check it out later? I'm gonna start with you, Austin. How did you feel about Summer Game Fest?
I did like it. I think I watched all of it except I missed the Tribeca one for sure. I didn't watch the PC gaming show, and there might have been another one I missed. But I tried to see as many as I could. Oh, I missed the Capcom one too, but I was at work, so that's the only reason why I didn't see it. But as far as like Summer Games Fest as a whole, like the Summer Game Fest show by itself, I thought it was decent. There wasn't a whole lot for me personally, my gaming taste, so I wasn't excited for it. But I realized that there was a lot of games there for other people. I think last year's Summer Games Fest, and honestly, I think both game awards that Jeff Keighley's hosted, their announcements I liked better than the Summer Games Fest shows. I kind of wonder if maybe Jeff Keighley should separate that and be like, hey, everyone at the Game Awards, we're going to save your announcements for the Summer Games Fest. Because if you were to add that to it, that'd be a killer show. And then maybe it wouldn't, retract from the awards. But the Summer Games Fest show is fun.
Should be like 45 minutes.
Yeah.
If that.
And I think that's why people, and that's the problem is like, I think really, really hardcore gamers would probably check it out, but I don't think a lot of people would check the rewards, unfortunately, because we can all say we care, but as long as we have the game in our lap, that's that's what we if we have the game in our hands, that's all we really care about. The awards, it's like plenty of my favorite games don't win awards, so who cares? Who cares if they get? But I was a little disappointed in Devolver this year. There wasn't much. I was like, But
yeah, I heard. Yeah, actually, a lot of the shows weren't like Capcom was really a big letdown, but we'll get into that later on in the show.
I was gonna say I don't know how far we're going because to me it was Xbox and weirdly enough Ubisoft were the two shows that I was like, wow.
We're gonna talk about those at the end of the show. What about you, Josh? How did you feel about the Summer Games Fest this year?
I think I'm in the same boat as Austin. There wasn't a lot for me. I mean, I'm a fairly new PlayStation gamer, so I've had a PlayStation for the first time since February. So I'm not. There's a lot of cool things that pop in and out in there, but I'll be honest. I watched trailers from there. I haven't watched any of the presentations or anything, mainly because most of that just I'm like, okay, one, it was happening while I was at work, but two, I'm like, just none of it really was something that I was interested in. There was a lot of cool things that came out of it, and I just usually read the reports on what happened and everything. But yeah, I mean, I think we're going to talk into some of them, but there was some stuff from PlayStation that I was excited about to see. Already stuff that's already been announced, and but it was cool to see get a release date for Spider-Man 2, see a trailer finally for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and what that crazy story is going to do now. But yeah, I mean, nothing really stood out enough for me to want to go back to it because that's how things are. When there's a big long event, I'll watch or read some kind of recap. Like if a 3-hour Monday Night Raw happens and a good match happened on there, I'll usually go back. But if there's nothing really memorable that happening in the show, I'll just read the recap and call it good because I don't have USA Network, so I usually have to watch it on YouTube or on Hulu or something like that. But yeah, I kind of felt like for me the Summers Game Fest was read the recap and I was good. I got what I needed out of that.
Go to bossrushmedia.com. Go look at
yes,
the recap.
we have great coverage that I was not a part of, but we did cover it. We have a lot of great coverage on that.
I'll try to get a full recap written up. It's not going to be all the games or anything, but I'm going to kind of try to recap everything that was like kind of show over the last 5 days. So it's going to take me a while, but everybody will be able to read it and see it in all of its glory. For me with Summer Game Fest, for the show itself, it felt dry in a sense. It didn't feel exciting. There was no really jaw-dropping moments or games. Like I think it was just something about Jeff Keighley. I know he is well intent to, of course it's about the games and stuff, but with him trying to be shady about E3 kind of in his tweets and everything, I feel like his show didn't even live up to the hype of what he was trying to make it, because we didn't. I mean, yeah, we got some gameplay for Mortal Kombat 1. Okay, fine. Nicolas Cage is gonna be there for Dead by Daylight. Okay, fine.
Which we already do.
But right, and so you brought Brian Intihar, a former staffer from EGM at OneUp.com. You brought him just to announce a date for Spider-Man. I'm like, we just seen the pre-show. I mean, the PlayStation showcase. They really could have just announced it there. They did, okay, fall 2023. So they put a placement because they wanted to give you guys the exciting thing that you only announced the date. Like that, to me personally, that was kind of pointless and everything. Like, if I was going to be him, I'd be like, can you guys bring us some different gameplay so that people could check it out and then release it into the date and everything. And it just felt like, it really felt low energy. It like really nobody was talking about it after the show. And then it just got like a lot of averages. Like people just shrugged their like shoulders. Like it was kind of, it really just felt weird. I had been trying to watch it while I was at work and everything, and when I got on Twitter to see what the responses were, people were still talking about Tears of the Kingdom, and that's, I think, no disrespect, but I'm just like, y'all still talking about the Tears of the Kingdom and Diablo 4? Go ahead.
What's weird is the best. Like Final Fantasy VII was probably the biggest announcement from that show, and I don't know how PlayStation didn't get a hold of that. Why wasn't that in their show? Their show could have been a lot better received had they had that. And then on the Summer Game Fest, we got Out 2, which we had just saw it, and Spider-Man, what we just saw at PlayStation. So it's like, man, y'all should have just collabed a little bit or something. Just the PlayStation show or something.
Well, yeah, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth got people like super excited, but really, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown and Sonic Superstars took the conversation. Like, and then of course that led to $60 2D games and Metroid Dread and all of that stuff. But Prince of Persia looked phenomenal. Sonic looked phenomenal. And that's pretty much, and of course Final Fantasy sounded good. And yes, there are people was interested in Mortal Kombat 1, but nobody was talking about Nicolas Cage coming to Dead by Daylight. They was kind of confused by it. Yeah. Nobody was really talking, well, Cyberpunk was really an Xbox showcase. Like there were just no hype responses really from the showcase. And it was just, I guess it was just, and I'm not trying to down the Summer Game Fest, but there should have been some more hype from it. There should have been some excitement more from Jeff Keighley himself, and it just didn't feel that way. He just presented the game, talked in this normal voice, and then just went about the biz. Like there should have been some hype and some reaction from Jeff Keighley himself, and it didn't feel like that. So people who just watched it just, you know, thought it was okay, and that shouldn't be. You're not supposed to have an okay show if you're going to be shady about an event that's not happening.
Austin, you brought it
Well,
up, and I didn't realize that, but PlayStation Showcase was literally 2.5 weeks before this. And I mean, I don't know why I didn't draw that connection there, but I'm like, you're absolutely right. Why did they drop something 2 weeks? I mean, when Xbox threw its showcase, and a lot of people are saying that was one of the better ones.
yeah.
You're splitting your soul at this point, and it's just not really going over well. It just, yeah. When you said that, I'm like, that was a weird, just because it was, the showcase was on May 24th, and the Summer Game Fest started on June 8th. Like, that's
Mm-hmm.
not enough. That's such a weird thing to do.
Yeah. Because I think at the end, like at the PlayStation Showcase, that they had shown Final Fantasy VII Rebirth at the very end, because it looks amazing. That open world
Mm-hmm.
looks amazing. Like I really can't wait to
Yes.
play that game. But the conversation around the PlayStation Showcase would have been, all right, that was kind of a weak showcase, but we at least got Final Fantasy VII at the end.
Right.
It was. It was
We didn't.
the people.
The showcase we got
The,
Spider Man, but was like, we already know Spider Man. We already know what Spider Man
well,
is. We already know
so
what's gonna be.
the problem with the show with PlayStation Showcase was they didn't show first party. People was expecting. I mean, regardless of what people thought of, if there's going to be a Bloodborne 2 and Metal Gear and all remake and Final Fantasy 9 remake, whatever all of those expectations going to be, were really let down. People were expecting more first party from Sony.
Yeah.
So when people didn't get that, or and of course people place high expectations because Sony is kind of winning a lot of people in this current gen against Series X with console sales, you would think that Sony would be showcasing what do you have for us for the fall and everything. Well, we got Spider-Man. Okay, Spider-Man is good, but we need more stuff. You
Yeah.
you got some indie games that's supposed to be coming that you guys are publishing. You got about some good studios and their work should be coming. So you should have showed something from Naughty Dog. You should have showed something from Sucker Punch. You should have showed something from your VR stuff from first party. Like they should have showed more, and it just didn't feel that way. Now, and I've been asking people, is State of Play the first party heavy show for Sony, and the showcase is third party, or are they both the same in a sense? And I've just been getting different answers and everything, and it just feel like
I think
go ahead.
I think the showcase should be first party focused, and State of Play should be whatever, but it wasn't. That is why the showcase was so disappointing. Had they said that showcase was a State of Play, this would be a whole other conversation. It'd be like, that was a pretty cool State of Play, we move on. But because they said a showcase, and the last time we had a PlayStation showcase was big, we had all these games. We showed Returnal and Forbidden West and Ragnarok and all that stuff. When you say this is a showcase, we're expecting, all right, let's see, even if it's a CGI trailer, give me some Ghost of Tsushima 2. Show me what Sony Ben is doing. Naughty Dog is working on Factions. We know that. If you can't show Factions, show us a teaser for Uncharted 5 or whatever they might be working on. Just give us some kind of update, because I think that, well, I know we're going to talk about Xbox later, but Xbox, so PlayStation showed you a lot of things that are coming out very soon, and the ones that aren't coming out very soon are like their free-to-play games, which is another downfall. Xbox showed that, like, hey, a lot of those games that Xbox showed were in 2024. And if history repeats itself, those games will come out till 2025 because they keep getting pushed back and farther and further. So you don't have to show us games that are coming out soon. You can throw those rules out the window, show us what you're making, and get your people excited. Because at this point, that's what showcases are. Get people excited. If you're not getting people excited, you're just wasting people's time. And we got games to play. If you're not going to show me what's coming out, I got games I want to play rather than to watch this show of games that I already knew. We already knew Spider-Man was coming out. We know what Spider-Man is.
And to that point, Austin, I mean, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth got delayed, and nobody's talking about that. They're just hyped because of how good that trailer was. I mean, that thing got delayed it was winter 23. Now it's early 24, is what they said. Mm-hmm. And, like, to your point, that was an example of something that's good. Like, that did what a showcase should do, because if you're not getting people excited, then you're not doing it. But, like, that trailer got everybody excited for a game that got delayed, and nobody seems to care about that.
More people cared about that. Oh, it's coming on 2 discs. Like, that's been the discussion about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And now that the Final Fantasy 16, when the Final Fantasy 16 demo has dropped, that's became the focus of
that demo.
Literally that has become the focus of PlayStation.
Oh my goodness, I'm so excited.
So it's
when I get back,
it's kind of so it's kind of weird of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Oh, that Summer Game Fest, they announced it. Okay, cool. And people, they were hyped, but they were hyped at the fact that it was coming on 2 discs. So that was just telling me that you guys are going to get this game physically. That's interesting because, yes, people do care about the physical, just like at the sales of Nintendo.
I think the big thing about it being 2 discs means that it was huge. Because I don't know how big that game has to be for it to be 2 discs. NBA 2K, let me tell you, NBA 2K is 150 gigs on my PS5. It does not need 2 discs. So I don't know why Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is going to need 2 discs.
Okay,
and I think that's what got people excited.
Rebirth, beside it being visually, like, with the graphics and everything, I think it's because it got a lot of cutscenes in it, and they're trying to retell the story and everything. They had to literally get still half of the first disc, the second disc, all together. Like, they only got one more part of the full remake to tell. They was going to be like, okay, we're doing it 3 parts. Okay, fine. So you literally almost got 25 hours of just a second and half of the first disc in order to tell this whole story. Someone has to get kit. Well, I won't say that part because they may change it. Who knows? But you got a lot to get before you even get to the final disc of that game. For Final Fantasy. So Square Enix got a lot to do to get that whole thing out.
But do we know if the 2 discs is actually like, all right, now you have to put in the second disc to play, or is this a Last of Us 2 Red Dead Redemption 2 thing where you're putting one disc in and
there is no installation disc. Both discs are going to have data on them that is part of the game.
I never followed up on that. That's even more insane. That's even more insane to me that there's going to be 2 separate discs I got to put in.
Well, and what's crazy is it's taken us, because if you take the original Final Fantasy VII Remake, it's taken us 3 discs to get what PlayStation got on 1 disc originally the first time. Like, that's how much they've expanded out everything in this game. And we still have... This is supposed to be a trilogy. We still have a 3rd one to go. Who knows? They're going to put that one on 3 discs.
But the thing about it is they added so much in remake because that was a lot of pandering in the remake. A lot of that stuff that you actually seen during remake wasn't in the original Final Fantasy VII. So spoilers to everybody. So spoilers to everybody. The house that you fight The house that you fight in Final Fantasy Remake as a boss was not a boss nor a tournament in the regular Final Fantasy 7. So they had to as Square Enix, they changed that. That's part of the pandering that they had and everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, but people are excited for Final Fantasy 16 and not happy for people who have played the demo and everything. We're gonna leave it right there. We're gonna come back to it at the end of the show because we got to point it out. And Josh, I want to know, what topic are you pointing out today? What is trending on your side?
So, since we started with music, and we need a palate cleanser, let's go to music. I don't know why it's trending, but "Purple Rain" by Prince is trending, and I'm looking at it, and I don't know why. So it's just apparently it's just appreciation. I think some people were saying it's a song that everybody loves, but you hate. Which anybody saying that can go walk straight into the ocean one by one on out. Just kidding. I don't care if you like Purple Rain or not. But I guess it comes to me, and this is gonna get Austin going. I know it will. What song, or yeah, let's say what song is just an absolute masterpiece for you?
Oh, I already can answer this with ease.
All right, well, let's hear it. Well, you filibuster for us.
Oh, for easy right now, "Weak" by SWV is a masterpiece. If you literally go to a lot of people who know the song and everything, always sing the chorus, sings of course the first and the second verse they know and everything. But "Weak" has, and this is by SWV Sisters with Voices. "Weak" has been a song that if they don't sing it at a concert, people are going to be upset. There's so many covers of "Weak." Um, and everybody always tries to be the lead part from the chorus. Coco, she sings like the lead part that leads it to into the the chorus and everything. And once you hear that chorus, it's infectious, and everybody always sings along with that song. Like it, 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 it was kind of one of the biggest songs in the '90s, and it has literally carried throughout the years and everything. JoJo did a remake of it, her first album. Other people have also did like different versions, like a trap version, like a chill hop lo-fi version and everything. And still to this very day, if people hear it, it may be their number one hit that got into the stardom today, because people didn't really know who SWV was until they heard "Weak," and it's like the fourth track off of their album, and everything. So a masterpiece of a song is "Weak" by SWV.
You need more time, Austin? Because I got one.
So the first song that comes to my head, first couple, "Freebird," Leonard Skinner,
That's
with
a
the
good one.
amazing guitar solo that if you've never heard it, I don't even know what you're doing. You can't tell me you can't listen to it and not get pumped. "Fortunate Son" by Credence, I think is one. Um,
That's the Vietnam
BYOB,
song, isn't it?
yes.
Whenever they show
That's
flashbacks to Vietnam, they always play
it's always
"Fortunate
that.
Son."
It does get made fun of now. It's become a meme, but man, I still stand by it. I still stand by it.
I was watching Forrest Gump not that long ago, and that was the song. And when he was in Vietnam, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's the song for Vietnam.
They should just name it Vietnam song at this point. Just
Like
people will know
the Vietnam
what
song,
it is.
the Vietnam song parentheses "Fortunate Son."
Those are the first two that kind of come to my head. Although I could say a lot of Creedence Clearwater Revival songs are up there for me. I know typical answer is Bohemian Rhapsody, and I get it.
That's my
I
answer.
think it's a very, it's a very good, it's a good song. I think that's the one that everyone goes to at first. So I was trying to think of
Oh,
something different. But Bohemian Rhapsody,
I have
it's just
I
like
have another one. This is how we do it by Montel Jordan. you cannot you cannot deny this is how we do it every time that song comes on and people are dancing it at weddings, singing along to the chorus, going into the verses and everything. And even Uber Eats got their take on it with Montel Jordan singing it. So
yeah,
they're like, that is literally a perfect song. Uh it's just so amazing on like still to this very day you probably could hear it like in different places when you're going grocery shopping or just on the radio or definitely like I said a lot of weddings you will definitely hear the song. So this is how we do it by Montel Jordan.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think I
I-
go. You know, we chatted about it there. Bohemian Rhapsody kind of pops into my head first. I just think it's such.
mhm.
I mean, it's operatic. Freddie Mercury is just on another level in this. I mean, he does a lot of good. And it's not my even my favorite Queen song, but I do acknowledge
Mhm.
how good it is. The other
Mm.
one, and I might be borderlining my fandom here. I I will submit "Smells Like Teen Spirit" by Nirvana. I think that
Okay,
the way
yeah,
that Kurt Cobain really, all of them together. It's if you look at it, and my wife does. She was a music minor in college, so I kind of learned a little bit how classical music affects more modern music today. And Nirvana is kind of an
mhm.
example of that. Back in like Beethoven and Mozart's time, they would do these like A-B formats where it's like you'd start off hard, go soft, or maybe you started off with one melody, you'd switch it up, come back to the original melody. Kind of that Smells Like Teen Spirit really utilizes that aspect because the chorus is always really loud, but the verses are very soft and they contrast each other so well, but they come together to make such a good song. And I know it wasn't Kurt Cobain's favorite song mainly because of how popular it was, but
Mm.
it's popular for a reason. It uses music elements so well, in my opinion. And I mean, everybody involved with that's just
Mhm.
so talented. And that music video is just memorable, which doesn't have
It's always
anything to
one
do
of
with the
those.
song, but
Well, it's always one of
Yeah.
those like people will hear you say that and they'll be like, "Oh, okay, that's the popular. It's a popular song for a reason. That song is great. It's fantastic." And honestly, that whole album is a masterpiece
that
in my
that's a
opinion.
gold album. That's a
Yeah,
whenever anybody asks me for Desert Island albums, that's my number one pick. Never mind all the time.
yeah.
Uh, I have Leah, Are You That Somebody from the Romeo and Juliet soundtrack. Um,
I don't know
that
that
one
one.
was
That's a new.
Aaliyah's. No, yes, you do. Aaliyah, Are You That Somebody? Where she's dancing and
I
everything. It's a
don't.
Timberland. Are you serious?
I won't
Really?
know that one.
That
I
song
don't.
was
As you said, from the
big
Romeo
when
and
it came
Juliet.
out. Yeah, from Aaliyah.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
missed that one. That one's.
that one is a big song. Um, I know Bills by Destiny's Child was big. Actually, no. Part 2 was a masterpiece to a lot of people. Salt and Pepper with Push It was a big one. JJ Fad with Supersonic was a big one. I'm going back in the 80s, everybody, with the rap stuff. Um, Pretty much, I'm sorry, but Smash Mouth with the Hey Now You're a Rock Star, like that was literally big. People consider that as a masterpiece. But then uh uh Charlie's the Chinese Chicken, Time Start Ticking, whatever song that is, um by that band. Oh, could not think of it. It was the second verse. Um I had to look it up. But go ahead, Josh.
I was going to also add in there, since I do like rap, Stan by Eminem. I think it's just a flat out masterpiece. Just the storytelling. It's just, I don't know. I mean, Eminem's such a weird character, just because, especially a lot of his older stuff, it's just kind of a lot of just random rapping. But when he wants to, he can sit down and he can tell a story. And Stan is probably one of the most, like, gut punch stories, and he tells it so well. He, he's got the scribbling sound effects that go on when Stan's writing the note. I mean, the heartbreaking, the girlfriend in the trunk. It's just such a, and even the reference to the Phil Collins song in the middle of it, when Aaron the Night, he references Phil Collins in the middle of the song. It's so well written, and it's one of those ones that just, it gets you to think after all is said and done. But I mean, for me, a song that can do that is always something that is really good, and I think Eminem in particular does that really well. He's one of the my favorite rappers. I really like Kendrick Lamar as well. But yeah, Stan is just, for me, is on like a whole different level of how do you tell a story in a song?
It's Bare Naked Ladies with 1 week. That's what it was. That one was like
I never guessed
Ludacris.
That one. I was like,
Ludacris. Yeah, Ludacris with Southern Hospitality, Throw Them Bows, Stand Up with Kanye. Huh? Oh,
not Blueberry Yum
You don't know about that one. They don't know about that one. Dr. Dre, like Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg, with 187 from the Blue something soundtrack. I cannot think of it. Sorry, everybody. But like Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg, when they was on Death Row, like they had hits. They were like literally running. Snoop Dogg, like his Doggy Style album, shoot, that mug was a banger. Like Gin and Juice. Like you still can hear Gin and Juice. And it's just a masterpiece. The video is like out there, I would say, but Gin and Juice was a masterpiece.
I don't even like the cover art for that album. I don't even like the cover art for that album.
Did you see the inside of the cover though? Did you ever look inside of it? If you could find the cover of that album and read the inside, it's a comic to it. If you see it, you're gonna fall out laughing. Yeah. You're All I Need by Method Man with Mary J. Blige was a big one. You can find In the Club by 50 Cent. It's still like a masterpiece to like a lot of people. I haven't even touched Janet Jackson's discography because shoot, she just got banger after banger. If by Janet Jackson, that was a big one. Control, What Have You Done For Me Lately? Like Janet got hits upon hits. Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, like they are masters that produce masterpieces and everything. So
now y'all got me thinking. I got As by Stevie Wonder. That's another one. Mm-hmm. Running by Pharcyde or Passing Me By Pharcyde. Either one. I love the Pharcyde.
Yeah, I love Mia's version with Running.
Oh yeah, Running.
That's her name. Yeah.
25 or 6 to 4 by Chicago. That's another one that anytime that thing gets on, it's a banger. Man, there's so many good songs. There's so many, but those would have to be at the top of the list.
Yeah. Brandy and Monica got their own like hits and everything. Of course, The Boy Is Mine is a big one. But like they got their own Brandy Having Broken Hearted is still a masterpiece to a lot of people. Monica, she has So Gone. That's how you got the So Gone challenge that happened. like with TikTok people and everything, with people rapping over it and stuff. So it's like it, masterpieces from a lot of well-known major artists. It's just out there. So yeah.
Where's My Mind by the Pixies? That's another one. That's another one. Okay, here's the thing though. I think that if a song is a masterpiece, it cannot be redone. And if it gets redone in an okay way, I don't know if it was ever a masterpiece. It kind of ruins it for me if I like another
So
version of a song.
so the only one I could probably say that has been the biggest remake of original song is gonna be Whitney Houston's "I Will Always Love You," with Dolly Parton having
Yeah.
the original. Like you're not gonna get any higher than that. Just that song alone, um, off the Bodyguard soundtrack, just like literally sold millions. And still people still
Well,
sing
and
that
I would
song to
say
the
that,
very day. Oh, go ahead,
but I
Austin.
would say that. So I would say in that case though, if someone were to call the Dolly Parton version a masterpiece, I would say no. The remake was the masterpiece. That was the one that
Yeah,
kicked it into another gear. You know, the
yeah.
original one. No disrespect to the original one, but I don't think the originals. I guess it's all subjective anyway. But like the original being a masterpiece means to me that it can't be redone. Like if anyone tried to remake "Smells Like Teen Spirit," I really don't think anyone could do it and give it justice. I really hate the remake version of "Beggin" by Madcon. I think "Beggin" by Madcon is a masterpiece that people keep trying. There's a Swedish band that tried to do it. It's all over TikTok and it drives me nuts. It drives me nuts every time I hear it. But I've that was just my curiosity though. If there's songs that like the original you love, but then there is a remake that kind of does it pretty good. That does it pretty good. For example, Foo Fighters, one of my favorite bands, made My Hero. Paramore remade it, and I'm like, I kind of like both of them really well. I don't know if I would call
Mhm.
Foo Fighters My Hero a masterpiece now. It kind of ruined that for me now that some other band really made a equable or maybe even a better version of that song.
Well, and I think when it comes to remakes, we get two kinds. We get I'm paying respect to whatever band. I mean, like you mentioned, "Smells Like Teen Spirit." We don't have a true popular remake that's out there, but if you listen on like kind of sometimes shows or on like I've found on YouTube, the Seether will do actually a pretty good version of it because the lead singer of Seether sounds a lot like Kurt Cobain, but the way he's doing it is out of respect, and I think those ones are your unique ones because I don't know, because the other one I feel like is somebody who maybe comes in with a chip on their shoulder, like, oh, they did it all right, but I can do it better. And I think that's where you start to get these ones that are really trying to market themselves out there, and they might still, and I think they still do have the respect for the original. But like I look at like Land of Confusion, Disturbed did a really good remake of that Genesis song, and
Mhm.
but it's so different than what Genesis did
Oh yeah,
with that song that it feels different. You Really Got Me, Van Halen remade a song by the Kinks.
right.
And and
Yeah,
Mhm.
that one, I would argue that similar, not on the level of Whitney Houston's remake, but You Really Got Me is a lot of people don't realize it is a remake of the Kinks. And
yeah,
so then that really helped sell Van Halen's albums, especially when you pair it with the guitar solo song Eruption. So yeah, I mean, you get these kind of two different classes, and I say bands who think they can do it better. Maybe it's just they really redefine the song and make it their own. That might not
Mhm.
necessarily mean, oh, I'm better than so and so. But then I think there's a lot of bands who or singers who do it just out of respect and who don't expect much out of it. Like Seether, I don't think they've ever put the "Smells Like Teen Spirit" on any album or anything like that. It's usually done at shows or on like a YouTube channel, or the one I found was like at a radio station event, and it wasn't even like somebody was recording it. That's the only reason there's footage of it.
Right.
So yeah, like I think those ones are the examples of where like Smells Like Teen Spirit can still be a masterpiece despite people trying to remake it, because there's not been one that's been tried to be pushed forward as here's the new version of this song.
So we're gonna move on from this, but I got just two songs that's iterations that that people probably will recognize and be like, yeah, I have to agree. The first one is Eye on the Sparrow, and the second one is Joyful Joyful, and they both come from the Sister Act 2 soundtrack. Like, if you hear when people hear Joyful Joyful, they think of the Sister Act 2 version. When you hear Eye on the Sparrow, people are always trying to imitate that version from Sister Act 2 of iterations of songs. You know, and the iterations as more from like those are kind of classical choral or worship hymns that kind of got jazzed up for people to sing and everything. So if people have any of you guys seen Sister Act 2?
I haven't seen Sister
I saw
Act
the
1.
first. I've never seen 2. I've never seen 2.
I
saw the first one.
I recommend. I say I recommend you guys see Sister Act 2. I really do, and everything. Because it has, of course, Lauryn Hill is in it, but they have some really great songs or renditions of songs in there, and it's very lighthearted and everything. I think you guys would definitely enjoy it.
And Lauryn Hill's album is another one that's perfect. That's another one.
Oh shoot, that one is a classic. The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, yeah, that's just a pure classic. Yeah. Josh, if you have not heard that that album, I'm gonna need you to find some time, get away from everybody, and listen to that album.
I'm gonna do it, Ed, just for you.
Yes.
Get so Twizzlers, channel Ed's in your energy.
Yes. Well, if you channel me, that means that you got to do some vocal stuff, because there's going to be some harmonies and some stuff that you're going to be like, okay, I this album.
And there's also some perfect choir songs out there too. Let's not lie. There's some perfect choir songs out there. I'm all down.
Oh yeah. Yes. Oh yeah. So Austin, what would you like to point it out? What is trending on your side? What one topic?
All right. Well, trending on my side, I'm going to give you two options. There's a gaming one and a non-gaming one. If you were to choose, which one would you want?
I'm going with non-gaming.
I'll go non-gaming as well.
All right. Well, this is actually going to work out perfectly for Josh, because baseball is trending all over my Twitter right now. And I want to ask, not specifically about how your team's doing this season. My team's actually doing pretty decent. If you hear cats squealing in the background, I promise you I'm not strangling them. They're just fighting. That's just what they do. But what is your relationship with baseball? What's your favorite things about baseball as far as them being in movies, games, you playing it, you going to watch it? I'm actually going to see the Rangers tomorrow. That's where I'm going to Dallas tomorrow, and they play the Angels, and I'm going to see Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout tomorrow. I'm very, very excited. So, just baseball in general, how you relate with it, and what you think about it. Is it important to you? Was it ever important to you? Just go along with that.
Josh, you want to start this one off?
Yeah, I'll start this one off. Baseball's been one that I think it's been a sport that's been around probably not the longest. Basketball's been. My dad used to work for the Clippers when we lived in Los Angeles, so I was a big fan of basketball at the time. I still am. But baseball. So you probably guessed it now. With being a Clippers fan, I'm a Dodgers fan. Just that's been a team that's been in my family for generations. My grandpa was a big fan. My dad's a big fan. I'm a big fan now, and I'm hoping my son will be a big fan of them too. So when I lived in Southern California, we used to go to Dodger games all the time. I mean, and they host different nights, different kinds of things to get people into the stadium. A popular one. My family is a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter Day Saints, and they would host Mormon Night at Dodger Stadium. So we would go to those. You'd get tickets to be in the outfield, bleachers, and that was just a lot of fun. You get a free hot dog to go with it, and those Dodger dogs are pretty famous. But yeah, I liked it. I wouldn't say I've gotten really into the sport until recently. And I've always known how to play baseball. I've watched it, but because I have memories of like the Red Sox and the Yankees in '04, that was a very memorable moment in baseball. I remember the Giants watching through gritted teeth because Dodger fans don't like the Giants, but watching them win their three World Series in 6 years, at the end of the 2000s into the 2010s, and recently the Dodgers have found a lot of success, and well, I should say they bought a lot of success, and they've been able to do a very good job. So I've been invested in it from there. But I mean, I've watched baseball, and I don't know if it's the older I've gotten, the more I just enjoy kind of the slower pace of it, and that's really what's been into it for me now. But it's not just that they're winning, because I've watched seasons all the way when the Dodgers were out in the NLDS. I was totally fine still watching it. So it's not just that the Dodgers are doing good. And then when I lived in Phoenix, it was kind of nice to be back into a baseball town with the Diamondbacks. Because here in Utah, we have a big minor league team, the Salt Lake Bees. They're affiliate of the Angels, and that's about the most baseball we get here in Salt Lake, although they're trying to get a MLB team here. I don't know how they'll do that, but they'll try. But yeah, I mean, I've was that?
Maybe they'll get the Oakland A's if Vegas doesn't go through.
I know, right? They're trying to they like dedicated a whole spot up on the mountain and everything. So yeah, I don't know. I really like baseball though. It's fun to go to games. I love going to games.
I would say, Josh, for Egg goes, that both of the Dodgers AAA and AA teams are in Oklahoma. I watched the AA team is basically where I live, about 20 minutes away. And so I see Tulsa Triller games all the time, and that's their AA team. Their AAA team is in Oklahoma City, which is like 2 hours away. So
Okay.
both really
Yeah, and
too.
the Dodgers had up here in Utah, like I don't even remember back when there was like 6 tiers of minor league baseball. They had one of their lowest tiers was in Utah in a city called Ogden. That's about an hour and a half north of where I live. But yeah, I mean the Bees are the Angels. So with it being the AAA affiliate, you get a lot of the big names who come down maybe off of IR, and they're gonna put like they had Josh Hamilton played a couple games in Salt Lake before returning back to the Angels about 10 years ago. Um, they'll get, I mean, if Trout ever goes out and needs to warm up a few on minor league, he'll come to Salt Lake and they'll sell out again. But yeah, the Bees are pretty popular here because we only have the Jazz. That's the only, well, we have a soccer team as well, which actually is really popular. But other than that, everything else is minor league or college. So we're kind of starved for sports in Utah.
I feel you. It's the same here. The Thunder is like our big team, and then everything else is like we got the Anaheim Ducks AA team for hockey, and then we have we have a soccer team. But I don't actually know what they're affiliated with. They're like not even the second level under MLS. It's like a third or fourth level below that. But it's just and we'll go see anything.
I'm saying we've got an MLS team in Salt Lake.
Do you have an indoor football league team? Do you have one of those in Salt Lake? I can't remember if there's one.
They did at one time. I don't know if they still do. Oh, it was the Utah Blaze. Once upon a time.
This is the first year that they came. Like the indoor football league, I guess, has been the Iowa Barnstormers was like an arena football league, and they were so popular that they were like, we're just gonna keep making the league and see who wants to get in. So like, there's a Green Bay team, and there's like all these different teams. And Tulsa just got their team this year. This is the first year they had it, and it was packed the first night I went there. I went there opening night. It was packed. So it's people. We want sports here. We really do. Believe it or not.
Right.
these
yeah, because
the states that aren't that populated, we crave it. We crave it more than anyone else.
Well, because we've got college is so big here. So the University of Utah is probably the biggest school. Brigham Young University, that's another very big school. And those are probably your two top teams. And now with BYU heading down to the Big 12, that's going to be, and Utah in the Pac-12, you've got like big sports, like big teams coming in and out of Utah now. Because BYU was independent. They were in that Notre Dame route for 10 years now. And they would have a packed front half of their year, and then they'd be playing like Tulane and just all these random schools at the back half of the year. But yeah, those are your two main. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, those are your main sports outlets there when you're not going for Real Salt Lake or the Jazz. It's the two colleges, and there's more in here, but those are the two. BYU and Utah are the big ones, and that's a nasty rivalry. That's a fun rivalry.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ed.
No, that's fine.
And you have two baseball teams in your city, so you can't say nothing.
So we have the Cubs and we have the White Sox, and I don't root for neither. Because I don't watch baseball. I'm not a sports guy, everybody. If it comes to sports, I love to watch volleyball and the cheer competitions for the choreography. Baseball, I do remember it was a thing with my granddad back in the 80s. He would sit down and watch the Cubs play on Channel 9, which was WGN here, which now is the WB for those who need to know. I never went to any of the games. I will say though, when Dan, Stephanie, Celeste, they came down for this retro game show, and another Zelda podcast, shout out to them. We're holding a quiz tournament. We went to the Cup Stadium and got to tour it and everything. And that was my first time that I have been in their stadium and everything. But when it comes to baseball itself, of course, with me being a video game guy, I played a lot of it on Nintendo and Sega Genesis. So, like, of course, with Nintendo releasing baseball, there was RBI. I think Bases Loaded by Jalico had fighting in it. So if you got hit, you were able to run in and fight another person, Street Fighter style, or see some animation. But I think they later on took it out and everything because fighting in baseball for video games were being removed. So that's why if you play a baseball game like MLB The Show and you hit somebody, you only get the animation of them going to first base. They can never put fighting anymore because they thought that would influence kids who want to fight, who get hit with the baseball and stuff in games. So they took that out.
NFL Blitz years later.
Exactly. But I do remember Triple Play on the Sega Genesis, and that was the game. Me and my friend, we played it. Like I didn't have no team or anything. It wasn't until I visit St. Louis, and my mom got us a hotel right across St. Louis, the Cardinal Stadium and everything. So even though the Cardinals were playing, and it rained one day. Their stadium was outside, so I could see a little bit of it, but I also kind of had it on the TV, and it rained, and I ended up watching a Perry Mason episode, and I love Perry Mason because of that. I never went to my high school games. I played baseball like for gym or like with friends and stuff, but I just never been a big person into it and everything. And when EA stopped doing their triple play baseball series and Sony brought out MLB The Show, I kind of recognized that became the like number one baseball game, not only just for Sony but just like in general. And Nintendo did have Ken Griffey Jr. like for years. But I just never played it because I wasn't that kind of kid who grew up with sports and everything. Like, my brother, he played football for high school and stuff. I think I went to one or two games if I was forced to go. Other than that, when he played, I never went because it was just something I was never interested in. So, but yeah, that's kind of my history with baseball and everything. I know Cracker Jacks has been always like one of the representation of candy for baseball and everything. Take me out to the ball game, take me out to and all of that mess.
Ed, you didn't even mention the best baseball video game, Backyard Baseball.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, Pablo Sanchez,
the GOAT,
best player, the best player of all time.
In all reality, though, that was such a fun baseball game. Like, I mean, it taught me.
Games were great.
Yeah, well, all of them were, but baseball was the one that I thought because it was their first, and I'm talking the one because they did another version. So the original version was like in the late 90s, I believe 98 or 99. And then they did a 2001 version that had a lot of the stars of that season, but they were kids. So you had like Alex Rodriguez, Ken Griffey Jr., Randy Johnson. You had a lot of these names but they were as kids, and each team was represented. And personally, I never had the one with all the stars in it, but I played it recently, and it's a lot of fun. And it's something that it would be so hard to ever bring that game back, just with all the licensing you'd have to get approved for that. But Backyard Baseball, that's if we're talking nostalgic things, that game, I spent hours playing that. I'd load up my team, obviously Pablo, but that game was just so good. And one thing I was reading about it recently is it's such a good game for representation in particular, because not just does it have like Hispanic kids or black kids or white kids in it, but they're all different shades. Like the Hispanic kids, they're all different shades of brown, or the black kids, there's different shades of black kids. So it was like really representative of like kids on the playground, because not every black kid looks the same, not every Hispanic kid or white kid looks the same, and they really played into that in this game. So I just was one of those games that for me, I would love to see it come back just for nostalgic sake. But man, that was that was probably what really got me into baseball, was playing Backyard Baseball on the computer.
So there is an arcade game called Ninja Baseball Batman. And I remember seeing that in EGM. What'd you say?
I have heard of this game, but I never played it. I haven't played that game, but I have heard of this.
I haven't played it neither, but I remember seeing it in EGM about it.
Well, two thoughts. Josh, if I had millions of dollars, if I stumbled on millions of dollars, I would go to Atari and talk to them about making a backyard game, because they own the rights to the Humongous Entertainment and the backyard, like actual, just the backyard team. If we could just have a game with just the backyard kids, I'd be okay. I don't need the professional players in there. I just need this. I need Pablo Sanchez and Kenny Kawaguchi and Amir Khan and Ernie Steele and all these people. I just want all these kids back into it. So, so I would love that. But
that's such a weird, like, where the, because I was looking at this trying to figure out where it is. So Humongous Sports is separate from Humongous Entertainment. So Atari doesn't even have the rights. It's like stuck behind
Ah,
some random law firm in Europe that doesn't, it's just sitting there. Like nobody's using it. So somebody needs to buy it from them. But it's like, I was trying to look it up that I don't think the company that owned the rights exists anymore. So I don't know how they're figuring all that out. But that's why, like, because they released all those humongous games like Spy Fox and Pajama Sam recently, and they
oh yeah,
couldn't do
that's
the
right.
backyard games. They couldn't do the backyard games with those because Humongous Entertainment. Somebody asked that in an FAQ, and they said, you know, as much as we'd love to bring those games back, we don't own the rights. And they explained how there was two separate. There was Humongous Entertainment and Humongous Sports, and Humongous Sports got sold some because they were all owned by Atari at one point, and then Atari sold sports to somebody else because they made like a mobile game of it in like 2015, and that's the last we've seen of a Humongous Sports property. So it's weird. If you look it up, it's really weird to try and find where those rights are because they're like buried deep in Europe somewhere,
Europe,
which
free
bums me
Pablo
out.
Sanchez. Free Pablo
I,
Sanchez. He didn't
I
do
don't,
anything.
we need to get that random thing about Pablo before you go. I love that kid doesn't even speak like he speaks Spanish, but if you like do the little like thing where you get him to talk, he's like, "Don't tell the other kids, but I don't actually speak Spanish. I just learned it in school." It's like my favorite Easter egg of Pablo Sanchez. Like when you click on the cards and they
Yeah.
speak, and he'll say a bunch of things in Spanish, and if you click it enough, he'll say this thing in English, and it's the joke is because in the history they had a white kid who didn't speak any Spanish. They just gave him the lines, and they're like, "Here, read these lines in Spanish," and that's why the accent sounds super weird to Spanish speakers. And then they joked about that when they were like, "Yeah, don't tell them the other kids, but I just learned Spanish in school." There's your random
Well,
Pablo Sanchez fact for the day.
and then another thought. I'm sending it to you all in the chat. If I can figure this out. I'm a little illiterate when it comes to technology sometimes. There's this game called Bat Boy. If you're a fan of Shovel Knight, this is kind of like a Shovel Knight, but all of the bosses are based on sports characters. So you have like a tennis boss, you have a hockey boss, you have all these different bosses that are like sports. So it's got like the Mega Man thing going on where all the bosses are different for different sports. And it just came out. I haven't got to play it yet, but it looks awesome. Like I really, really want to get to it.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I never heard of this.
Yeah, it looks great. But
Is the game out?
yes, I think it's on everything if I remember correctly. It should be on
I have to.
everything.
Very
So, but
Mega
yeah,
Man of it.
it's definitely on Switch. I'll tell you. I know it's on Switch and Steam for sure. So yeah,
Yeah.
if you all like
Yeah,
Shovel Knight,
I've never seen a trailer or heard of this game.
I found it through another podcast, and I was like, I don't know how I've never heard of this game. This sounds exactly like what something I would like, and it looks exactly like something I like. Shovel Knight
Right.
and Mega Man bosses that are based on sports. That's a perfect game for me. I don't know why I never thought of that before.
X
So
Plus Games. Yeah, it's out because it came out May 25th.
yeah, so
Hmm.
that piques your
Man, that's
interest.
pretty
Check
cool.
that game out.
Yeah, I'll check that out. I'll have to pick that up.
So
Well, well, everybody, we're going to get into our final section where this would normally be our boss rush banter, but we're going to continue to talk of the Summer Game Fest, and we're kind of going to talk about um, some of the highlights, lowlights, and talk about Xbox. Um, what we think of what we thought of their presentation. So, and we won't be too long, but I'm going to ask everybody, what was your low lights from the Summer Game Fest? Austin, I'm gonna start with you.
Wait, so you're saying low lights? So what's like?
Yeah.
What was like my least favorite?
Yes.
That's a good question. One thing for sure. Okay, just from the Summer Game Fest or all of it? It's a
Throughout all the presentations, whatever you saw.
okay. So first off, I am a huge Overwatch fan. Used to be. I'm a little falling off here lately with Overwatch 2. It hasn't been great. I've just kind of fell off because it's not really what we were hoping for as a community, as the Overwatch community goes. And I felt like just a month ago we were like, all right, we're gonna kill it now. We're not doing this stuff. And then at the Xbox showcase, they show like, all right, here's what we're gonna do. Like, yeah, I've heard this before. I'm a little over it. I just, as the song from, if you've ever seen the Robots movie, there's a song that says, "Don't tell me what you're gonna do or what you would have done. Just tell me what you already did." And that's all I needed to hear from Blizzard Overwatch at this point. Just show me when it went out. Just tell me. But until then, stop. I'm done. I'm done hearing this. I'm done hearing all these promises that's not coming. It's a little annoying. So that would be my biggest low light. After that, I'd have to think about it. There's probably some stuff that I just didn't care about, but I probably don't remember those.
Okay. Josh, what was your low light of the show?
I'm gonna be honest and say that. How do I put this? There was because I haven't gone back to it. I feel like as a whole, and I don't mean this in a way that the whole event was awful or anything like that, but the fact that it was just not very memorable enough for me to feel the need to go back and see it kind of is a low light. I mean, there had been Nintendo Directs that I feel like, oh, I've got to go watch those a couple times just because that was a fun ride, despite getting all the announcements out of it. And where this one didn't have that, and granted, yeah, there was. I mean, people are going to talk about certain aspects of it that were really good, but as a whole, I don't feel a need to go back and watch it. I feel like I've gotten all the information out of it, and when
which one are you talking about? Summer Game Fest?
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure because you didn't mention what you want to go back to watch, so that's why.
Well, that's the thing is, there's nothing really that stood out that I want to go back and watch.
Okay.
Like I feel like I've gotten what I need out of this, and I never watched any of it just yet. And I mean, I might go back and watch them, but the fact that I don't really feel the need to go back and see what I missed, I think is kind of a low light of the event. And I think it goes to what you said earlier, Ed. There didn't seem to be much enthusiasm behind it. There's not a reason to go back and watch, in my opinion, to watch everything stringed along in the presentation. You can watch the trailers, you can read a recap, and probably get just as much out of it as if you sat down and watched however long those presentations were. So that's, for me, that's the low light. I guess the overall presentation. And again, I'm coming from somebody who didn't watch a lot of it, but got all the announcements through news coverage and through some of the Boss Rush coverage that we've done. So that's a lame answer. I totally acknowledge it's a lame answer, but yeah, there wasn't much that really stood out to me in my mind that I'm like, oh man, that trailer was bad or anything like that.
Okay. For me, I kind of have like 1.5 low light. So I'm going to start with the half first, and that was the announcement of the Xbox Series S Black, the 1 terabyte one. It didn't do nothing for me because I know people got the right one. I think I was expecting that they would show the SSD card and it'd be like, well, it's 1 terabyte, well, here's a 2 terabyte one, and announcing like a price drop for that. It kind of was just a letdown that they ended on that note. I think I would have switched the time where they showed Starfield, so that Starfield presentation would lead into the Starfield Direct. I would have kind of switched those two, and everything for Xbox. But that was kind of just like my half low light. It was just like, yeah, okay, that's cool, but it just didn't do nothing for me. And like, really, nobody was really talking about it now. And I'm not going to knock Xbox because I do have a highlight for them. But my main highlight was Capcom's presentation, um, especially Pragmata. Their new game, new IP that kind of looks like it's going to be a third-person shooter with action. It looks kind of like Vanquish in a sense, but that's just my opinion. They delayed the game. Again, no one still don't know what the whole thing is about. This was the game that was showed at.
To be fair, Exoprimal comes out next month, and all we know is that we're shooting dinosaurs, but I don't think anyone really knows what's going on there. And now we have Street Fighter characters in there.
Yeah, so we do have a little bit information about Exoprimal because of the open beta, because of the beta test that we got for that. And so we did, at the end of that demo, we did kind of get a hint of what the story may be, and everything. So I won't knock Exoprimal for there, but Capcom really did just like drop the ball. Like, they're not pushing no kind of marketing for that game. Pragmata, I thought that would be shown at Sony Showcase because the first version, the first trailer of it was announced at their showcase when they announced the PlayStation 5. And that was a big major showcase for Sony. This one, I'm just like, okay, so it's been delayed to 2024, which really means you're just going out on full production because Exoprimal and Street Fighter 6 is done. And Path of the Goddess, the game that looks like Onimusha and stuff, that's probably almost done also. So, and of course you got Dragon's Dogma. So, which one?
How'd you feel about Path of the Goddess game? It looked interesting.
Looks interesting. I think I want to get my hands on it and figure what the game is about, because I'm still don't know what it is. I know it looks like it's going to be an action game in the form of not so much Devil May Cry, but just an action game where you hack and slash and you're defeating enemies in the main boss and you're trying to open doors. That's all I could really think of, and trying to send demons back to hell.
Kind of reminded me of like like what Sifu was with like hand-to-hand combat, but with like your sword. You got your sword this time. So it feels like maybe like an Absolver where it has like it's not going to be really hack and slash, but it's going to be more like your pairing and timing is going to be more important in this one. But that's from what I could tell. The trailer was like, man, this is really colorful, but I have no idea what's going on. That's what I got from that trailer.
Yeah, and the bad thing about the Capcom showcase, because it was kind of like the worst showcase out of everything. I think the only thing that I love that Ghost Trick at the demo. Everybody, please do go play that. I beat it on DS, so I'm excited for it to play it on current consoles and definitely on Switch. The Ace Attorney Apollo Justice trilogy coming out next year was kind of like my highlight from it and everything, but everything else is just like, y'all really had a chance, because I'm like, we already know about, once again, like you guys mentioned for the PlayStation Showcase, we already know about Resident Evil for VR. Like that's nothing new. We know about Exoprimal. That's nothing new. Like we know Street Fighter 6, okay, so you guys are going to have some robot, like a crossover with Exo Primal. Okay, that's fine, but that crossover don't happen until like later on in the year. And then, of course, you got your tournament. Okay, cool. That should have been kind of like the last announcement. Like, they really, and we already seen Path of the Goddess in the Xbox showcase, and it was like the same trailer. So, um, even though that one was revealed for all the systems it was coming out for. So Capcom really didn't offer us much. You know, I wish they did give us Mega Man 12. I wish they gave us Onimusha Collection. I wish they announced that DMC Devil May Cry was coming to Switch. Like, I wanted to see some more announcements and some more definitely Switch support from Capcom and everything. But they just didn't give it to that. We already seen all of this. So it was like it really felt nothing new. And I really thought Monster Hunter was going to be announced. Like, and I'm not talking about the Rise DLC. I thought like a new Monster Hunter game was coming to Xbox and PlayStation 5 and everything. But unfortunately that didn't happen. But let's talk about our highlights. Josh, what one highlight did you at least get you excited for from Summer Game Fest?
Man, you give me just a one highlight limit. There were a couple of, but
Okay,
and I
I'll
already
give you three highlights.
okay, all right. So Final Fantasy VII, Rebirth. I thought that was a great trailer, and um, you know, in my full disclosure, I only beat the original Final Fantasy VII last year for the very first time ever. So a lot of that story is very fresh in my mind. So seeing some of the, and I haven't played the remake yet. It's on my list and it's coming up soon. I'm just working my way through some other games before I get there, but I have that one coming up. Another one that, excuse me, another one that looked really interesting is Star Wars Outlaws, from that was shown during
Ubisoft.
the Xbox. Yeah, it was the Xbox, and then they expanded on it in the Ubisoft
Yeah.
showcase. But that one looks to be an open world Star Wars game. Honestly, I'm such a big Star Wars fan that any kind of game that, I mean, just looking through it, it looks great. Um, Time will tell how that all turns out, but as of right now, it's something that I am excited for and excited to see where it goes with it. But yeah, I mean, Star
Mhm.
Wars is fun. Is I always have a lot of fun when I play Star Wars games, and like I mentioned, since I got my a PlayStation for the first time, Fallen Order is on my list, so I'll be jumping into those games here soon. And then the last one that was revealed is Persona 3 Reload. Um, that's one that I think I'm excited to get into because, you know, I say I'm excited for it, and I'll be honest, I've never played a Persona game. Um, it's more
Ah,
about
okay.
it's more about carving out the time than anything because I know those are
Yes.
a very intensive get playthrough. I mean, Brad over here at Boss Rush just barely finished Persona 5 and he's been playing it since like November. So I know it's very intensive playthroughs, but the fact that you know you're getting something on a modern console, especially one because 4 and 5 get a lot of the hype in Persona,
Hmm.
but 3 has its fans, and I think a chance to give it a remake and get it into modern onto modern consoles and have it set for those consoles rather than being a
Yeah.
remastered version is a good thing. So yeah, that one's one that's on my radar as well. So whether I get to that sooner rather than later when it comes out is a different story, but it is something that it might bump up to the line just given I do want to play a Persona game and I just have to carve out the time to do so.
Josh,
They're my
do you
three, Ed.
mostly play on PlayStation? Do you mostly play on Switch? Where do you mostly play at?
So I'm a mix right now. I would say up until February it was only Switch because that's all I owned. Um,
Mm,
with PlayStation, given that I've never owned a PlayStation console before, I have a lot to catch up on that I
mhm,
have just sitting there now in my backlog. Although I'm finding that I'm able to work my way through some of them pretty quickly. Like I beat Spider Man the first Spider-Man in like 2 weeks, just because they were taking it off of PS Plus. So I had to hurry through to beat it, and I had a lot of fun with it. But
Yeah.
right now, if you would have asked me last month, it would have been the PlayStation. This month, it's the Switch because I've been playing a lot of Tears of the Kingdom. But I go back and forth, and I'm trying to keep it because I still have some games on my Switch that I've been working through as well. And the Switch is really my big indie console, and a lot of my like remasters I play on there. So like when I played Final Fantasy VIII last year and into this year, or it was last year, I would play that handheld all the time just because those older graphics seem to fit better in a handheld environment. So I think when the dust settles, unless it's a newer game or one of the ones that I still have to play, like Dragon Quest XI or Fire Emblem Three Houses, those will play on the TV. But most of my gameplay with the Switch will probably go to handheld, and PlayStation will kind of dominate the TV.
Well, I was gonna say I definitely suggest playing Persona 3 and 4. Just play it on the Switch, unless like you really cared like about trophies and stuff. Like playing in the handheld is really like the best way to play those games. I played 1, 2, 3, and 4 all on my Vita. Like that's how I played all those games. So I know the Switch can handle it just fine. So I would highly suggest just like those are the best. Really, the Switch is the best place to play those JRPGs. 5, I would be a little worried that you might lose something there because 5 has more of like live action stuff when you're like stealthing around and stuff. So I don't know. I've never played 5 on the Switch, but 3 and 4 definitely.
It got a lot of good ratings on Switch.
Yeah. So
yeah,
but
yeah, I've heard people have recommended I try 4 first, just because they've said it's hard to come back from 5, just given how more modern 5 is than 4.
My personal favorite, but I really think you can't go wrong with 3, 4, or 5. 2 and 1 are really hard to go to. So
Persona 1 and Persona 2 is hard because Persona 2 was kind of broken up into, I think, it kind of 2 games, and one of them we didn't get here and everything. So
we still didn't get it here either.
Well, and I think the tough part with 3 on what's been released and why I think it's been bumped on list, it's just that it's the portable version and not the, what is it? There's another version that came out.
FES.
Yeah, a lot of people say that one because the portable, just given the hardware that it came out on, kind of locks you in. There's not as much freedom as you get in the FES, whatever that one is you just said. But so that's the only, people say they like 3 a lot, but they would wait for a different version than the one that was the portable version. So having a remake would put that in a good spot for me.
People don't want the remake neither because they found out that it's not going to be like FES.
So 3 is controversial, and I would say like if you really can hold out, don't buy the 3 Reload when it comes out. Wait till they put like a 3 Reload whatever, because they've been doing this now they did with 4 and then 4 Golden, they did with 5 and then 5 Royale. Go ahead and wait, because the idea is we think that Persona 3 Reload might have that first version, but then they're going to combine the 2 in the Ultimate Edition. So if you really want the fast stuff, yeah. And it's disheartening because when you play like 4 and 5, like 5, I put 90 hours into. And I was like, man, that was a great game. And then like 3 months later, oh, by the way, here's Royal. And if you want to play it, you're going to have to play. It's not like a DLC where you can just add it. You got to play through the whole thing again, and that's
whole game all
hours. So at that point, if you haven't played a Persona game yet, you can play like 4 and 5 now because you're going to get the full experience. But 3, I would just wait and see if there's going to be a full collection mode, and then do it then, because otherwise you're gonna make yourself play it and feel like you missed something.
Well, and recently I've found the patience really pays off, because there have been a couple games that I've seen go on stale on PlayStation, on the PlayStation Store that I'm like, oh, I want to grab those, and then I'm like, well, I've got a pretty big backlog, so let me hold off on them.
Mhm.
And then, like for example, the Tomb Raider trilogy, I wanted to grab that on sale a couple months back, and now it's on PS Plus, so I don't even got that. And then today they announced Far Cry 6 is going onto PS
Yeah.
Plus, so I'm like, okay, I should just focus on backlog and wait till like the version I want comes out. So I mean, waiting on Persona 3 Ultimate or whatever it's going to be I think is going to be not a big problem for me, because I mean there's very few games that I try to grab at launch or shortly after that, and Tears of the Kingdom was one. I think Final Fantasy 16 is going to be one, and I grabbed WWE 2K23 about a week after launch. So other than that, I don't really grab stuff at launch. I usually wait a little bit, usually till a holiday sale or something like that. But because I get FOMO on some stuff, but Tears of the Kingdom's the one I just couldn't. That's my favorite franchise is Zelda games.
Okay.
Yeah, there's only
Well,
2 games the whole year. I'm the same way where I want Final Fantasy 16 and I want Starfield. Those 2 games at the days I'm buying day one, I will be there. I think I'm gonna pay extra for the early access. I really am on Starfield. I want to be there day one.
That's the ultimate version, right? That the collector's edition. I think.
Yeah.
Well, I will give my 3 highlights for the show. Number 1, Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown looks amazing. That 2D, 60 frames per second action, combo, stylish kind of style. It's literally up my alley. The Summer Game Fest was jumping off when they went with that trailer. And then it just went somewhere that I didn't expect with that. So definitely that is like one of my highlights. The second highlight is going to be the Starfield controller. That controller looks amazing, and they didn't give no release date or anything, but people got it already. So like you could order it and
I
have
think it was just like unavailable now. Go. Like that was the thing.
Because they was just like pre-order it right now. I'm just like, wait, what? Hold on, what's going on? So I'm going to try to snag the controller next week. But like that controller looks, I literally think it's one of Xbox's best designed looking controllers. For it, I'm like, ooh, this looks so good and everything. The headphones, not so much. But yeah, I was literally happy to see that. And my last one, and I gotta give it back up to Xbox. That Fable trailer was funny. Starting it off with Richard Ayoade. Who was a British comedian. It literally was so good and it was so funny. I truly enjoyed that one. I kind of noticed a theme that stop animation was kind of like the theme of the Summer Game Fest, because there's some games that's using it, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. All right. South of Midnight, okay, with the black protagonist. Okay, let's see what you're doing, Microsoft.
Awesome.
That's cool. Oh, I do, because I gotta ask you, Austin, because we had a big discussion last week. Clockwork Revolution. Did you see the trailer?
I did.
Thoughts?
Here's the thing. Everyone knows, because I had several things texted to me. Is this a BioShock Infinite game? I was like, no, it is not. It does have some BioShock Infinite vibes, but let me tell you, I've seen BioShock vibes in games before, and it doesn't always mean good. I think Atomic Heart was one that people were really looking forward. I was looking forward to, and then I kind of heard it was mixed, and I was like, "Well, I'll put it on the back burner for now. I'll get to it when I get to it." But I'm very curious, because to me, not only does it have BioShock Infinite vibes, but the explanation for how the game works, as far as going back in time in one timeline rather than multiple timelines, is also. Spoilers for BioShock Infinite, but that's BioShock Infinite. That's how that works. So I'm like, that's very interesting. That going back and forth in time and changing one specific timeline and the continuity and everything. So it's very, very interesting. I'm very curious to see what that game's going to be. It's a very different. It sounds like a different game to me than like Wasteland. So I'll be interested to see what they do. But I was very attracted to the style of that game. Don't get me wrong. It's anything with BioShock that has that tinge to it. I'm in, but I got to see more from it. I got to see what's going on here because I've been duped before. But
Okay. So, Austin, what is your 3 highlights?
from the Summer Games Fest, which again wasn't a lot for me. I mean, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth was, of course, the big one. Warhammer Space Marine 2. I'm not a Warhammer guy, but Space Marine 1 is awesome. It's an awesome PS3 game, and I'm very looking forward to 2. I love
2 looks good. I do want to play it. I do want to play 2.
So I'm definitely looking forward to 2. I'm not a Sonic guy at all, but Sonic Superstars looks good. Me and Josh were, and Logan were watching together. Logan hadn't joined us yet, but me and Josh were like, are we gonna like a Sonic game? Like, are we really into the Sonic game? And I was like, I think we're both into the Sonic game. And at that time, at the point of the show when Logan joined in, he's like, all right, what's the biggest thing? And I was like, believe it or not, I think Sonic is the best thing I've seen so far. Like, that's the game that's got me the most excited is the Sonic game, and I don't even like Sonic. So, and then Liza P. That was the other one from Summer Games Fest. But we've seen that game so many times. I'm ready for just to have that game in my hands.
I still need to download the demo and play it.
I do too.
Okay. Well, we're going to quickly touch on the Xbox presentation. And then I want to ask you guys one more thing. Grading the whole Summer Game Fest, what grade would you give it? So, I really enjoyed the Xbox presentation. They, I don't really care about all the talking and stuff. I mean, the downside that a lot of the games is coming out to 2024. I was talking to Corey about this, and I was kind of down on Hellblade 2 because I was hoping for it to release this year and it's releasing next year, and I'm just like, that was kind of the only thing. It's just the release date for it. It looks beautiful, looks amazing. I can't wait to play that game. Definitely me and Corey probably would hopefully we do a replay of the first Hellblade before the second game comes out. So that was kind of like really good, but Microsoft really knocked it out the park with a lot of their games. I was going through it, and this month we got Elder Scrolls Online: Shadow of Morrowind, releasing June 20th. July is the Sea of Thieves with the Legend of Monkey Island. August is Overwatch 2 update. September is the Xbox S Black, Starfield, Payday, and Cyberpunk 2077. October was Forza Motorsport, and City Skylines 2, which was surprisingly that was a highlight for a lot of people out of this presentation. That's City Skylines 2 was like a must-have for a lot of gamers. Doom and Flight Simulator coming out in November, along with Persona Tactica. We don't have anything in December at this time, so from Xbox, but there's going to probably be more games and stuff. Right now, Fallout 76, Atlantic City, and Jusant is supposed to be coming in sometime in 2023. But pretty much having the whole show that they had, a lot of stuff is not coming into next year and stuff. But they really had a really good showing from it. So I definitely was proud of Microsoft, and like everybody said, this was the show that they needed and everything. And it was just it's not so much the talking parts, like I said. It was just like, we need to know what is coming to your platform. We need games and we need release dates. They somewhat delivered on that because we are getting a good amount of games. And this is not including a lot of third-party games. We are getting a lot for it this year, but it's just like the games that's supposed to be coming is going to be in next year. So hopefully they could stick to those dates, and they could stick to that release window in 2024. And Game Pass is going to be packed. So, like, if you are a Game Pass subscriber, you're going to have a feast. You're going to be eating good with a lot of games, for it. Austin, thoughts about the Xbox presentation?
Man, I don't want to go all night because this was an incredible show. I think if you're an Xbox fan, you can't help but be excited for what this showcase showed you. The more I've gotten away from it, when I first watched it, as I was watching it live, I was like, man, this is the best show the Xbox has maybe ever had. Like, this is great. And the more that we got away from it, I started sour on a few things, because there's a few things I'm just like, that's got me really thinking. And there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of fanboyism on both sides. People trying to dog Xbox, people trying to up Xbox too much, because we did get a lot of games. I don't know how you can't look at all these games and not be excited, but at the same time, I've never been worried about Xbox never having games. I've been worried about the execution that we've gotten from the games that they put out so far, and the lack of the games that they put out so far, and constantly pushing back games so far. We've all these games that, like Redfall and all this stuff like this. Those games and Starfield have been pushed back for over a year. Those were supposed to come out last year, and they kept pushing back. So you're giving me all these 2024 games. I'm like, are any of these games going to actually come out in 2024, or are they going to get pushed back to 2025, 2026? Like, I can't be too excited unless I see that date. So for me as an Xbox person, I'm like, I'm excited for Starfield. They can't push it back at this point. It's got to be coming out.
Yes.
Forza Motorsport, like, it's coming out I well believe that it's going to be coming out. So I'm excited for that. As far as everything else, I'm like, I'm just going to have to wait and see until it happens. I'm going to have to wait and see it happen. Not saying that's bad. Not saying I'm not excited for these games, but I don't really know when we're getting them. And I'm not entirely sure about the execution either. So, there are a few things. I could go a long time on this game, on this showcase, but one thing I want to point out that I think a lot of controversy has been on for Hellblade specifically, and a lot of people want to see the combat, they want to see the gameplay, and I kind of want to ask if you played Hellblade 1. To me, the combat in Hellblade 1 is nothing to write home about. It's very serviceable, and in fact, it's pretty boring. That's not why that game is great. That game is great because of the storytelling and the atmosphere and the story that it tells, and the audio and the visuals. That combat is that combat is just it's a Honda Accord. It's getting you to Disney World. It's not pretty. It's not a great. It's not. It doesn't get a good system. The AC is kind of broken, but it's gonna get you to Disney World, okay? And that's what Hellblade is. It's gonna get you to a great story. It's gonna tell you. It's gonna be a great destination to get into, but it was never pretty to begin with, and so people they're like disappointed that we didn't see Hellblade 2 combat. I'm like, I don't know if you're expecting Hellblade to be Xbox versions of God of War, like you're wanting to see this action fighting game. I don't think that's what Hellblade 2 is going to be. And if it is, if it is, yeah, I'd like to see the combat. But if it's not, if it's just going to be the story, if it's going to be kind of what the first one was, I don't think we really need to see combat. We already know what the game is.
I think people want to see the gameplay because this game has been in development in a long time, because it's supposed to be way out. But when she said we just finished wrapping up with some of the shooting, like the CGI, like the cutscenes and stuff, that gave people concern because what have you been doing all of this time? What were all the trailers that you shown us? Have that been, even with the trailer coming out in at the Game Awards, I think last year, we was expecting to see something. And I'm not going to knock Tears of the Kingdom or anything, because that game has been going on for 6 years, but we have at least seen some work come from out of there, and that got people hyped. We haven't seen any work come from Hellblade ever since the Xbox Series X was announced. So people are concerned to be like, people are concerned because they're hiding the combat in it. And I know Ninja Theory is good at doing action style games. So they just want to get a sense of what are we going to be doing actual gameplay wise. We know what we're going to be seeing visually with the cutscenes, but we don't know anything about the gameplay. And that's our concern. People are complaining about it. That is the concern.
Do you think a majority of people are going to be disappointed if Hellblade 2 comes out and the gameplay is pretty much the same as the first one? It just looks better and is going to tell a longer story, maybe.
Yeah,
because I mean, because I get it. I get it wanting a better combat system and stuff, but I also wouldn't mind it just being the same type of combat.
I think people would be, because people would be like, you are doing the cyberpunk thing to us, where you're just showing us visuals of cutscenes and you're not giving us gameplay. So that brings concern to me about, is your gameplay going to be troublesome or it's going to be non-exciting because you're hiding all the gameplay stuff. Your game looks visually impressive, but visually impressive doesn't do anything anymore. Shovel Knight is visually impressive.
Yeah, we got a lot of visually impressive games.
Like Death's Door is visually impressive. Like, we already seen the visual impressive stuff. But if you're hiding your combat or your gameplay by visual impressive stuff, you're cyberpunking us. And we don't want that anymore. If your games have been in development for six some years and you have not even come out and said anything, that gives us concern when your game actually releases. Because what's going to happen is that, of course, people are going to skip reviews and look at the score and judge it on that. People want to know if they could rely on, with great visuals and great storytelling, are we going to have great combat? Because you had 6 years to make some great combat, and if it doesn't feel that way, then why are we playing this game?
Right.
Josh, what did you think about the Xbox presentation?
And full disclosure, I'm not an Xbox owner, so I probably have a little bit of a different perspective. But I do think, in terms of public opinion, they needed that. They really needed that, because the jokes have been abounding for Xbox, and we've got, for better or for worse, PlayStation's coming here, Nintendo's doing really good. Where are you at, Microsoft? And this is where they're at. I mean, they did a good job to sit on this and not do what Sony did and do some kind of direct 2 weeks earlier. And they just, they brought them out here. And, there's concerns. Austin brought up some very fair concerns about that, because a lot of those games aren't coming until 2024. But I felt like it was just enough of a boost to get you closer to that. There's some great looking games there. There's a lot of games that I think, they have intrigue to me as not being an Xbox owner. But Hellblade is something that looks interesting to me. So yeah, I mean, it was something that they needed. There's a lot of great games here and a lot of really good aspects to get you excited again as an Xbox fan. And I think that's what they needed, was they got you excited. We're going to debate on exactly, as the dust settles on this, what exactly, do we have, are we ticked that we have to wait longer? Whatever it is, but I think they gave that boost that Xbox really needed, because I think right now, you know, obviously according to the showcase, they still don't have much coming out this year, but that sets them up as 2024 being a very good year for them if everything comes, which sounds like history says it might not all come out the way it should come out, but as of right now they're tracking for a pretty good 2024.
Yes. Well, everybody, before we end the show, we're going to give our rating for the whole summer Game Fest. Particularly for Xbox, I will give Xbox a minus. I really thought they did a really great job showing off the games that's coming for the rest of the year and for 2024. But overall, for this showcase Game Fest, I gotta give it a B minus. I really think that no knock against Ubisoft, because I think they had a great conference. Wholesome Direct had a great conference. The Tribeca Game Festival showed some really interesting games, but I think the main show, the Summer Game Fest, was just not memorable. It was okay. Capcom, don't know why they was there. They didn't really show much, and the really saving grace was Xbox Showcase. And if they want to include PlayStation Showcase, the PlayStation Showcase was okay. So I'm going to give like the whole Summer Game Fest a B minus. Josh, what would you rate the Summer Game Fest? What would you give Microsoft, and then what would you get the Summer Game Fest?
I feel like I'm going to sound like I'm copying you, but I think A minus for Microsoft, just given what doesn't bump that up over for me, I think, is that a lot of those games aren't coming out this year. So in terms of hype, it can be hard to build hype early and then hope that it carries over all the way until these releases, especially if they end up delaying. So I mean, I'll knock off a point, A minus, B plus, right around there. But it was a very good Xbox's showcase was very good. So I think I'll copy you, Ed, and I'll say A minus. Overall, I'll go a notch lower and I'll say a C plus for the overall thing. Xbox really is carrying a lot of that, but a lot of the others, and we look at Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, that was another thing that really bolstered it up. But largely everything else felt forgettable. Well, there was some other announcements that I know I'm glossing over here, but for the large part, what came out in the Microsoft showcase and what came out, little bits and pieces here and there were, and I think that's really diluted by PlayStation really just kneecapping itself. Because I mean, Spider-Man could have been such a bigger hit if they would have just waited until Summer Game Fest. So I say C plus.
Okay. Austin, what would you give Microsoft, and then what would you give all the Summer Game Fest?
So Microsoft, I'm going to be a little biased here. I'm going to give them an A because they have Starfield and two Persona games and a new Atlas RPG.
That's good.
Listen, those are my favorite franchises. Those are like the Bethesda Game Studio and Atlas are two of my. If you sat me down, what are like top 5 studios? Those are your two. There's 2 of the top 5 right there. Like I love Persona games. I can't wait for Metaphor, this kind of like medieval fantasy type Persona game. People were saying it looked like Fire Emblem, and I was like, yeah, I guess, but it also looks like Persona. So please, so it's still got the Persona flair to it.
And the funny thing is, everybody, please remember that Atlas did work with Nintendo with Tokyo Mirage Session, and they have Fire Emblem characters in it. So,
but then like Xbox just did a good job of like giving us stuff we wanted. Starfield, Star Wars Outlaws, which Josh touched earlier, like that game looks fantastic. There's so many games that just were exciting and new and different. As far as a hype show, it's an A. We'll see on the execution later. That it's kind of like I know Ed doesn't really want to follow sports, but it's like who won the NFL draft? Who won the NBA draft? Well, we won't know until we see these players actually play. You can pick whoever you want. We got to see them play before we know who won the draft. It's kind of one of those things.
Yes.
As far as the Summer Games Fest go, I'd probably agree with Josh. It'd be a C+ for me. I think Xbox carried a lot of it. Everything else I felt was just a little, just like, and maybe that was just for my taste, but I felt like a lot of the excitement around it wasn't as hyped up as it had been. I think last year's Summer Game Fest and the year before that, I think even had more hype than this. And I definitely say the last few Game Awards have had bigger hype than this. So to me, this was like a C+ at best. But a lot of cool games coming. I can't wait. It's a good time to be a gamer, as always. There's always good stuff coming out.
And that's not even to mention whatever Nintendo has planned for their next Direct.
Which I think is going to be a Partners Direct. But that's going to be another episode. Everybody will have a discussion later.
If you want to listen to part of that, just listen to the mini block that me and Ed did. We started doing that for like 30 minutes. And then I had to bring up Ken Levine.
Yeah. Oh, we'll talk about that later. Austin, thank you for joining us. If you want to go ahead and plug where people can find you and listen to your podcast.
If you've gotten this far, just go to Spotify, look up Scrambled Rambles. It'll be the first one you see. It is honestly just me and like my very, very long friends. We've all been friends with each other for dozens to from a decade to 2 decades long at this point. So we've been friends for a long time, and we're just talking all kinds of crazy stuff. None of it makes sense. Don't bother looking at the titles. I make them make no sense on purpose. Just go in there and have fun, and that's all I can really ask for. It's just, and if you don't have fun, don't listen to it, because I wouldn't blame you. It's crazy. It's just crazy talk. That's all it is. So, but yeah, check that out. And then if you want to follow me on Twitter, just @PlayStaustin. So, and that's it. No biggies.
I want to thank you, Austin. I want to thank you, Josh. Everybody, have a great week. Have a great weekend. And we'll see you next time on Jump Off Point. Bye, everybody.
If you want to be a Patreon producer, head on over to patreon.com/BossRushMedia, and find out which tier is right for you. Our Patreon producers at the $5 tier or higher for this month are Adriel Munger, Austin Campbell, Celeste Roberts, Christian S., Sana Dierig, Francisco Santillan, and Rebecca Jewell. Thank you for your continued support. This episode of Jump Off Point is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to learn how to support the Boss Rush family of podcasts, head to bossrush.net or our Patreon at patreon.com/BossRushMedia. Thanks for helping us build something better.